Hello and welcome to the Husband Help Haven podcast, where you're going to learn how to be the best husband that you can be, no matter what your marriage is like right now. This is your host, Stephen, and today's episode is for every man whose wife has ever told him to be more validating. If this is a complaint that you've had in your relationship, that you're not validating enough or that you're not compassionate enough, well, then today's episode is for you. An alternative title I could have put on today's episode is Why Being a Fixer Will Destroy Your Marriage. It gives you a little bit of a hint of the direction that we're going to be going here, but stay tuned because by the end of today's episode, I'm going to have given you 3 specific phrases, little mental cues that you can keep in mind to help you mend this dynamic in your relationship and find a better response when this sort of thing comes up. Now, real quick, guys, for reference, or if you just want to skip and get the TLDR, go check out husbandhelphaven.com/episode 29, episode -29. That's going to be where the reference notes are for today. But let's start out by talking about what is a fixer and why is it a problem in a marriage, okay? So a fixer would be when your wife expresses a problem paired with a hurt feeling, okay? Even if she doesn't express the hurt feeling or even if she doesn't express the specific problem, you get one or you get the other, and it's clear that there's both. And then you respond with a solution. Your first response is, here's the answer. Here's the solution. Here's what you do to solve this thing. Now, for us guys, generally speaking, I think we're kind of hardwired to think this way. It definitely comes very naturally to us. It's a lot of times the thing that makes us good at our jobs or in our field, whatever it is. A lot of times it's how we like our friends to treat us. Like, hey, don't beat around the bush. Just tell me what I need to do. You know, so we like solutions. We're oriented to solution-based thinking, and yet it's not always the right thing in a marriage. Right. And so even in my coaching, I'll say, I'll start out every call, hey, what questions would you like to have answered by the time we're done talking? Great. That's a helpful guide for our conversation. We want solutions. But again, in a marriage with your wife, it can cause some problems, especially if this becomes the only way or the primary way that you respond to complaints. Right. So let's talk a little bit more about why this dynamic can create an unhappy wife. If she comes to you and she says, and she's really in her heart yearning for validation and connection. She's wanting to have a safe landing place for her hurt feelings. And you respond with a pragmatic solution. Oh, just do this. Then what happens? Well, 2 things are going to happen. First off, she feels unheard. Those feelings that are kind of flying around looking for a place to land in her mind don't find that place to land in conversation with you. So she doesn't get the piece of being heard out, right? And on the flip side, instead, she will feel dismissed. She gets the feeling, she walks away sensing that you think she just shouldn't feel this way. Or that it doesn't have to, that she's basically making it harder than it needs to be. Like, oh gosh, you feel so badly, here's your complaint. Gosh, just do this and next time you'll feel better. If you'd just done this, you wouldn't be in this position. And so it can end up feeling dismissive to her as the recipient of a fixer. And again, even I can think of times where I have gotten this sort of advice from people, and it doesn't feel good to me because really what I wanted was just to vent or to be heard or for somebody to give me a little sympathy to say, oh, that sounds really hard. And again, if you're a fixer, sympathy is not going to be something that commonly comes up in your first response. And so again, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, getting to some of these solutions, but you can certainly start to see why this becomes a problem. Let me give you a little bit more of a personal example from my own marriage. So my wife in years past has said to me, gets to be Thanksgiving time. There's a lot of preparation that goes into Thanksgiving. We often are the ones that host. My wife will come to me and say, I feel like I'm the only one doing all the work for Thanksgiving. Or maybe for the kids, have their birthday party coming up. I feel like I'm the only one planning this birthday party. Insert special event, right? And in years past, there have been times where my response is just, oh, well then tell me what I need to do. Just tell me the thing that I need to do that'll make it better. And what my wife hears when I say that is, again, just like what I said earlier, the feelings aren't heard. The frustration and the overwhelm are not engaged with. And it almost feels from her end like I'm trying to get out of the problem. Just tell me what I need to do. Gosh, I don't want to hear about all that. I don't want to hear about your frustrations. Just tell me what I need to do so I can make this conversation go away. So I can make your hurt feelings go away and we don't have to deal with them anymore. Right? And so when I'm saying something that, from where I'm sitting, there is some amount of this like subconscious, I just want to get this. Yeah, I don't like dealing with conflict. I don't like dealing with hurt feelings. So just tell me what I need to do so we can move on. There's some of that probably. There's also some just, I'm really trying to be helpful. It's just misguided. It doesn't feel helpful to her. And so instead of making it feel better for her, she's come to me with a complaint that's revolving around a specific pragmatic issue, but there are feelings in there as well. Instead of her feeling better by this response of just tell me what I need to do, it feels worse. And so then she might end up doubling down on why this is so frustrating and overwhelming, right? Because the feelings haven't been engaged with. The problem has been, but the feelings haven't been. And so she feels like she needs to double down on the feelings part. Here's why I'm so frustrated. Here's why I'm so overwhelmed. No, you don't understand. It's not that simple. Here's the problem, right? She might point out other areas. She might pull that list out, right? That we all try not to keep, but inevitably do, of here's the other times that you've done the same thing and the same dynamic has happened. See, I'm right. And again, what is she doing? She feels like I'm dismissing how she feels. And so she's now having to justify how she feels. And one way she does that is by looking into the past. She might say, look, I just shouldn't have to ask you for help with this stuff. You're not like a child. Like, just you see that I need help. Come help me, right? Again, fair response on both sides, but not a good feeling response for her. What she really wants to hear in a situation like this is the thing that she wants to hear is validation. She still wants to see the solution, but she wants to hear validation first. And so for me to be able to respond and say, you're right. There is a lot to do. I'm sorry that I've left you with all this. It's very overwhelming. I would feel overwhelmed too if I were in your shoes. I see that you've been left to bear this stuff alone. I'm sorry. You're allowed to feel frustrated and overwhelmed by these things. It makes sense that you feel that way, right? Now, again, and sometimes, so you engage those hurt feelings first. Sometimes you can try and segue into some positive feelings. Look, I believe in you. You're very strong. You're very capable. You are, a master at getting these things done. That can sometimes go over well, right? That often goes over better than just, again, a sort of hand-waving statement like, oh, it's going to be okay. Don't worry about this. Because again, what does that do? That's not building her up in any way. That's just saying, stop coming to me with these feelings. Stop complaining about this, right? Even though I'm trying to be reassuring, it's going to be okay, right? What she ends up feeling is invalidated. No, that's the whole reason I'm worried. It's not going to be okay, or it'll be okay, but it's going to I'm going to have to pay a huge toll to get there, and that's more than I want to pay. It's going to rob me of my joy going through this if I have to do all this work just to get to Thanksgiving or just to get to kid's birthday party or whatever. And then again, when it comes to the time for the solution, and again, this is me just being honest with you guys. A lot of times I will say, well, what if I did this? Could I do this to help? When really what I've learned is it's better to just say, I'm going to do this to help. I'm going to do this differently. And then let her correct me if that's not the right solution. Because again, you can sort of see the whole picture here is that me as a fixer responds to a complaint with basically asking her permission to not feel like I'm asking her to just not feel that way anymore. Well, hey, could I just do this instead? You feel frustrated and overwhelmed because there's too much to do in preparation for this special event. Let me just take on XYZ responsibilities, and then that's good, right? We can just call this good. Well, neither of those things makes her feel like she's right to be frustrated or overwhelmed, nor do they take responsibility on my part, right? So, okay. We've sort of gone into the weeds a little bit on why this fixing becomes a problem, but really it is not because it's never right to have a solution for things. It's good to have solutions. And it's actually good to be able to anticipate good solutions that your wife will be happy about, that she will buy into. But when you're a one-trick pony for finding solutions, when you over rely on fixing things as the answer to every hurt feeling, you know, that's where the problem comes in. It's like you are the hammer that only ever sees nails, and that's not a good way to go through a relationship. You need to expand your repertoire of conflict resolution. Rather than just fixing the problem, you need to learn how to hear it, how to engage it, and how to make room for it when she's expressing it to you. And again, I know from firsthand experience, as well as from talking to a lot of you guys, that this sort of fixer nature is not rooted in selfishness. It really isn't. There are, like I said, maybe some little subconscious things going on there that are a little bit more egotistical, or more self-serving is probably a better word to use there. But a lot of times when you're offering a solution, it's twofold, because you're at a loss for how else to respond. It's sort of uncomfortable territory for you. And for two, you genuinely want to help. So what do? You offer a solution. And again, I think this is a male problem. Okay. I'm quite sure. But so again, the thing that we're trying to get to is not removing solutions or fixing as a skill. We're trying to add extra skills to the repertoire, so that the feelings are met and the problem is solved. And that's really the end goal when we get into conflicts like this. Now, real quick, guys, I do have to say, Husband Help Group, it's coming soon, okay? So if you haven't already, go over and join the waitlist. This is going to be a support group for men like you who are going through separation or who are otherwise trying to save their marriage. The group is going to be special because it is pro-marriage, even though you're going through separation or you're facing divorce or whatever. This is a pro-marriage group. We're going to support you in fighting for your marriage. It's pro-hope. It's pro-wife. Not going to be talking badly about wives in there, anything like that. No misogyny or whatever words you want to use there. It's also going to be very privacy conscious. So it's not going to be on Facebook. It's not on a social media platform. It's on a privacy conscious platform that still has a good solid mobile app, so you can actually use it and engage with it throughout your day. And so, yeah, especially if you don't currently have a good support network in your life right now, and you are going through something really hard in your marriage, I would encourage you to go check out Husband Help Group. You can join the waitlist for when we open doors just to the waitlist later this month. It's at husbandhelphaven.com/waitlist. All right. Now, let's talk about what we're actually going to do about this issue we're discussing in today's episode. If you are guilty of being the fixer, like me, like what I have been in my relationship, what do you need to do instead? Okay. Again, I recognize that this is an area where I could sound like I'm talking from the mountaintop here, like, guys, I've got it all figured out. No, I'm still learning. I am still an explorer along with you guys. But here are some of the things that I have found so far that have really made a big difference in giving my wife the feeling of validation and connection that she craves when she is coming to me with hurt feelings about something, especially about something that I did. Okay? Well, the first one is, just like I said, we need to learn about validation. You need to learn how to be validating. So that's step number one. A good phrase to remember is validation first. Again, we'll get into another good phrase here in a second, but validation is let's just define the term here. What is it? What is validation? Well, it's when you say the truth that she already knows out loud and in your own words, right? So validation is when someone else says back to you the thing that you already know is true without you needing to put the words in their mouth for them. So again, you can probably think of times where you've been sitting down and you've been talking to somebody, you've been maybe even complaining about something, and they sort of pick up the ball for you and say, oh man, yeah, and also this thing probably would have been really frustrating, and that thing isn't fair either. And like, man, I feel really badly for you. Or it can also go in the reverse, right? You can have validation about good things too, but it usually comes up with hurt feelings. And so, yes, this is something that we know when we feel it. We've all experienced it, and it's one of those things where you know when you get it. It's a little harder to define, but you know when you get it. Um, but it's important because it tells her that she's normal. It tells her, as the word implies, that she's valid for having these feelings. It doesn't have to be a wholehearted endorsement of her perspective on how the feelings got there. And again, what are feelings anyways? They're sort of emotional responses to, there's two parts. There's perception and there's the circumstances, right? And those things together inform your feelings. And so the circumstances might be corrupted by a bad perception that are generating harsher feelings in your wife than is right or proper. And yet still what we want to do is validate those feelings first, find where we can validate them, and then we can work through the misperception if there is any, right? So we want to respect her feelings. We want to give her dignity. Validation is a way that we do that. And for a lot of women, again, maybe this is just for a lot of people, but certainly for a lot of women, this validation component is what helps the guard come down. Because when she gets the sense of like, oh, he hears me, it's safe to talk through this now. I don't have to convince him that these feelings are allowed or that I'm allowed to feel this way. He just agrees. He gets it. We're on the same team here. We're on the same page here. Now we can talk about, now I can be a little more open and a little more humble about what's going on here, right? So validation is very important. It gets you out of opposition mode into alignment mode. So we have to have that validation piece. So how do you do it? Well, again, reflecting back what she's saying in your own words, that's a very simple way to do it. It's just like basic mirroring, right? When it's feelings about you, because again, I think it's easier to do when it's a complaint about something or someone else. But when it's a complaint about you, it does get a little bit harder because you have your own take on what happened or why you did the thing that you did. You might need a little validation too, right? But we just can't start there, especially when she's the one bringing the hurt feelings. And so this can, what you need to learn to do is to find the truth that you can both agree on. Find a true way of engaging with what she's saying and engaging with her feelings. So this is, I'm trying to get you to stay away from talking like, oh, I'm sorry that you felt this way. I'm sorry that that you felt this way. And towards, I'm sorry I did this thing that caused these feelings. Right? One of those is dismissive. One of those is taking responsibility. One of those is shirking responsibility. One is embracing it. Right? So again, this requires finding that aligning truth about whatever the thing is that the hurt feelings are coming from. It's seeing the truth in her perspective and then articulating it back to her. Right? And yes, like sometimes you're allowed to be a mind reader, or you can at least try. And again, with this sort of gets us into our next point, but you're allowed to ask questions too. So if you're having trouble validating, ask a question. And actually that does just get us straight into our next point, because the next thing that I want you to remember to do is curiosity. Curiosity. Be curious about her feelings first. And the phrase, and this is, I think, the most powerful phrase that I'm going to give you in this episode. If you remember one thing from this episode, it is this: curiosity, not judgment. Curiosity, not judgment. I think this phrase is extremely powerful as a cue to remember when you're in conversations with your wife. Because when you respond with curiosity, first off, it paves the way for validation. And second off, it shows her that you care. It shows you that you're pointedly not assuming that you already know everything. And it gives her the floor. It says, look, you are bringing this to me. Tell me more about it. I'm okay to just let you talk to me about this. So it facilitates venting. It makes room for venting, especially when that's what she needs, right? So respond with curiosity. Assume there's more to learn about what she's saying, right? What is the difference between curiosity and judgment? Well, curiosity says, I don't already know everything that I need to know. And judgment says, I do. Judgment is when you've already decided everything that there is to know about the thing that's being discussed, and you already know the right way to respond. And so again, you can see where being a fixer, where your first response to a hurt feeling or to a problem is to give a solution, that's actually judgment in disguise. You've already judged what the right solution is. Just like the judge gives out the verdict. You've already decided what the verdict is on this problem. You just need to do this. Well, no, let's take some time and be curious first. Let's not leap to conclusions. Let's assume that we don't know everything yet and learn and ask. And again, you can see how validation and curiosity in some way go hand in hand, because you can ask questions to understand her better, and then that's a natural sort of avenue through which you can say, okay, I'm hearing that you're saying this. That makes sense. I can understand why these feelings are there. I would be feeling that way too, et cetera, et cetera. So curiosity, that's the second part, is we need validation, we need curiosity. And then the third aspect, the third thing that fixers generally need to hear is that sometimes bad conversations are just allowed. That's just how it is. Sometimes, not every conversation is going to be tied up in a neat little bow. That's just not how life works. It's not how relationships work. And so the phrase I'd ask you to remember here is imperfect is allowed. Imperfect is allowed. Sometimes your fixerness comes out in like needing every conversation to end well, or that if a conversation doesn't end well, it's a failure. We need to end an agreement or else we can't end the conversation, right? But it's okay. And sometimes there are going to be conversations that just go badly. And sometimes it's not about you. Sometimes it's not that you're being too much of a fixer or something like this. Sometimes it's just about your wife. She's just in a bad mood. She's not going to be happy no matter what you say, right? Okay. So sometimes we just need to say imperfect is allowed. It's okay to end a conversation in a way that's going to require more individual processing or even further dialogue together. That's okay. And sometimes the answer is there's not a solution that makes this thing feel better. It just is venting. It's just one of the hardships of life. It's a human thing to have things that you just need to vent about. And again, as a fixer, it's hard. That's just not going to be something that is going to happen in the relationship, because every problem must have a solution. There's never room for just venting. Some wives just need a bit of grace to not speak perfectly. And this is especially true if your wife tends towards projection. And I don't say that in like a mean way, but just I'm saying like if that's sort of her baked in way of dealing with insecurities, is she sort of puts them on the people or the circumstances around her. Or if she tends towards a fight response, like fight, flight, or freeze, she's a fighter, basically, if she runs hot when she's feeling badly, if she tends to run hot, then sometimes those harsh words that you might hear from her are not about the words themselves. They're just about trying to get you to feel the feelings that she feels. She feels badly. You got to feel badly. The only way I know how to do that, again, this is not right, I'm not excusing this, is to be harsh with you, right? All the same, when that's happening, and even when we're in these conversations that are really just venting, there's not a solution. It's just a venting situation, right? Still, the most disarming thing you can do a lot of the times is to call out the part that you agree with, call out where she's right, and then beyond that, just let the conversation not be a good conversation. There's always later. We can come back to it later. So, again, it's okay to acknowledge some frustration, or to call out that you can feel that she, like you can even do this, like just call out that you feel like she's wanting to vent and you want her to be able to vent. You can even say those words. Look, I want our relationship to be one where you can come to me and just vent when you have hurt feelings. Like I want to be a safe person to hear those things and to just be there with you through them, even when they're about me, right? I want you to experience a relationship where you don't have to be perfect all the time or always have the answer all the time, or like even always want to hear the answer, right? Like all those things are okay. Again, it's sort of, there's a soft skill beneath all of this of being able to pull out the kernel of truth for her in these conversations and then repeat it back to her a la validation, right? So rather than fixating on the things that she's saying wrongly or inaccurately or with exaggeration, we focus on where she's actually right or reasonable or has a sort of solid footing. And we sort of help guide the conversation towards that area for her, right? So let's just recap, okay? I'm hoping that this is like a pretty concrete, actionable episode overall for you guys, especially if your wife has ever complained about not feeling validated in the relationship, or if she's ever accused you of dismissing her feelings. I hope that you'll try out the things that we discussed in today's episode. Let's just quickly recap. We talked about 3 internal cues. Validation first, saying the first thing I want to give my wife is validation. Curiosity, not judgment. And again, curiosity a lot of the times paves the way to validation. So curiosity, not judgment. And remember, that's my favorite one. That's the one I would have you remember. It's the one that's been the most helpful to me, is curiosity, not judgment. And then imperfect is allowed. She's allowed to be imperfect. You're allowed to be imperfect. There's always tomorrow. There's always another conversation that we can have. Okay. And sometimes there is a judgment call. There's a sort of wisdom in not getting to the solution part now. Just let the feelings be expressed, make them well received as best you can, and then plan for there to be a part 2, and that's okay. Might do you both a favor to do that. So, okay, whether you're separated or still solid in your marriage, I suspect that adopting these phrases will enrich your communication with your wife and maybe give you some new tools to try out to garner more satisfaction and more connection in your relationship. So, like I said, guys, at the start, just real quick call out, Husband Help Group waitlist. It's up, husbandhelphaven.com/waitlist. And then the show notes are at husbandhelphaven.com/episode-29 for this one. Next time, guys, stay tuned because we are going to be talking about how to heal and or prevent your wife's midlife crisis. So if she's going through a midlife crisis right now, and you feel like that's part of why she's leaving, or as an identity crisis, that's kind of the phrase that I actually prefer, but midlife crisis is the colloquial term, so that's what I'm using here. But if she's going through something like that, this episode is going to be really, really helpful for you because it's going to help you understand what a path back to the marriage will involve. And additionally, if your marriage is good, you're pretty solid or solid-ish, but you're nearing that stage in life where these midlife crises tend to occur, which is like an age ending in a 0, 40, 50, 30. I've seen 30, but tends to be 40, 50. Or kids are getting ready to leave the house, emptiness, that sort of thing, right? Or there's chaos in her childhood. And oh gosh, I'm getting too much into it. So, but look, guys, if you see some of those red flag markers, again, this also will be helpful to you. This is a really powerful lesson that I've learned firsthand over the years of helping men sort of survive in marriages where these midlife crises have been present. So I'm excited about that. Stay tuned for next time. Thank you for listening to this one, and I really do hope it's been helpful to you. It's a challenge to myself as well as a challenge to all of you. So let's all do better as husbands, as men who seek to connect with our wives, to the significant others in our lives. So thank you for listening, guys. As always, it has been Stephen coming at you with much manly love. See you next time.